Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 191, I Have Subdued the Dragon. The duel was over. However, the sky showed no signs of clearing. The surroundings remained shrouded in mist, and the unconscious police officers were still out cold. Hikaru looked toward the Skull Knight, staying on guard. Even if he wasn't affiliated with the Fusion Army, who could say for sure? What if this Skull Knight was one of those sore losers who refused to admit defeat? But thinking more carefully, Hikaru realized he had absolutely no idea why this person had challenged him to a duel in the first place. Before the duel, there hadn't been any kind of agreement between him and the Skull Knight. There was nothing at stake, neither the lives of the police officers nor anything else had been wagered. In other words, it had been a purely forced duel. So, he had to remain wary of his opponent, in case the guy suddenly decided to make a move. Despite that, when Hikaru turned his gaze back to the Skull Knight, he noticed something strange. The Skull Knight's body was slowly collapsing. His bones were falling away, fragments of bone detaching from his skeletal frame, as if he were about to crumble completely. What's going on? Hikaru frowned. Interesting, you interdimensional human, the Skull Knight said as he watched his own hand disintegrate. After observing it for a while, he looked up at Hikaru. You truly are no ordinary duelist. Was he not planning to fight anymore? That put Hikaru a bit more at ease. Even so, he had no idea why this guy had come to him in the first place. But he could wait and hear the explanation. You interdimensional humans possess incredible technology, and you yourself wield power beyond the ordinary. But, this world isn't as simple as it seems. That much, you should be able to understand, right? He was implying that since Hikaru had such dark, sinister power and had hidden it among ordinary interdimensional travelers, then he should also be able to comprehend that similar things might exist in this world. However, Hikaru was deeply familiar with the original Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D series, so he simply nodded without much thought. If you understand that, then, interdimensional human, stay out of the changes about to unfold in this world. The robe around him scattered into the wind, revealing bones that had already mostly decayed beneath. He did not explain to Hikaru what was happening in this world, nor did he intend to tell him what his brother was planning. From his perspective, interdimensional people were merely passers-by in this world. Once time passed, they would return to their own world. At that point, the fate of this world would have nothing to do with them. And so, not knowing the internal affairs of this world, not knowing the enmity between the Crimson Dragon and the Earthbound gods, not knowing the cycles of reincarnation this world had gone through again and again, that was a blessing for outsiders like them. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the Skull Knight tossed two cards with a whooshing sound. Hikaru caught them on reflex and looked down. Ghost Fusion and Dragon Echo? What the hell? When he looked back up, the Skull Knight had completely vanished, leaving only a gently twitching lower jaw behind. Human, the last trace of my former life, of my humanity. I give it to you. As the absolute fusionist, I trust you won't let it go to waste. With that, the Skull Knight's figure dissolved completely, leaving behind only a riderless D-wheel horse. It reared back with a long howl before galloping away like the wind. The dark, deathly aura slowly faded. Hikaru stood frozen in place, staring down at the cards in his hand. Thereafter, he looked up and met Tiara's eyes, exchanging a silent glance. After a moment, the groans of the reviving police officers reached Hikaru's ears. They were waking up. Tiara, stroking her chin, mused aloud, so is that how it is, Hikaru? Because you're a duelist devoted to fusion, and because that man's ace was a fusion monster scorned by Synchro Dimension, he saw in you someone like his former self and entrusted his final power to you? Sounds about right? From both a logical and emotional standpoint, that did seem to be the case. Ha ha ha, then you better thank me properly, Hikaru. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten such a, pretty strong card that easily. She was speaking from a power perspective. Though it wasn't in its full form, the Permai she had personally summoned was no mere low-level spirit. And for Dragon Necro to clash evenly with it in sheer force, its spirit rank must have been quite high. Hikaru agreed. She wasn't wrong. After all, this was one of the Crimson Dragon's dual dragons. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D series, the existence of spirits wasn't very prominent, only one dragon could visibly see dual monster spirits. But that didn't mean spirits didn't exist. In reality, all the dragons used by the main cast had spirits. Moreover, this world even had the Asur gods, creatures on par with the Egyptian gods in divine rank and race. That was the status of dual dragons. Any dual dragon had the potential to channel the power of the Crimson Dragon, the god of synchro and time travel. And even though Dragon Necro was a fusion monster, it had a fully synchronized counterpart. Even if Hikaru couldn't use that version, the original was already powerful enough. Plus, considering his own performance and Tiara's assistance, this card now seemed quite tame. It had fully accepted its new master. Because its new master was the one its original master had chosen, a fusion-based duelist with power aligned with death. Exactly the kind of duelist it was meant for. Who would have thought? After coming to another dimension, not only did Hikaru meet Yusei, Yugo, and Rin, he also gained such an unexpected gift. Once we gather the materials, I'll help you build the next Infernoid, Hikaru said, not forgetting Tiara's help. Though, in hindsight, Tiara's assistance might not have been that critical. The Skull Knight had already been observing him for some time. So whether Tiara was there or not probably didn't change the final outcome. It only affected how fast that outcome arrived. However, Hikaru wasn't the kind of person to be stingy about credit. Haha, that's what I admire most about you, Tiara laughed, knowing full well her attempt to take credit had been a stretch. She was genuinely happy to hear Hikaru acknowledge her anyway. At heart, this was simply the reward for their effective teamwork. Both she and Hikaru understood that perfectly. Chapter 192, Rapid Duel. After the police regained consciousness, Hikaru had a brief exchange with them and returned to the interdimensional base to continue researching his deck. The acquisition of Ghost Fusion was without a doubt the most thrilling thing for Hikaru. In fact, Hikaru already had Ghost Fusion in his backup cards, but that version was the Osiji legal version, which required his life points to be lower than the opponent's in order to banish monsters from the deck for a fusion summon. Although the card could usually be activated without issue, it just wasn't as satisfying as the original, Ghost Fusion, gifted by Skull Knight. Just like, even though Hikaru had various types of future fusion, the one that excited him the most was still the original equip spell version. After that incident, the Friendship Cup with the S-Dimension proceeded smoothly. 15 days might not be short, even so, they passed in the blink of an eye. Because the opponents were random participants from the city or duelists from the satellite district, their side won a sweeping victory, far beyond expectations. No matter who participated in a duel, they gained tremendous fame and were talked about excitedly by duelists and spectators alike. Even Jesse, who lost, garnered attention for the uniqueness of his Crystal Beasts deck. Naturally, the victorious duelists received even more attention. Under such circumstances, the promised day 15 arrived. According to the agreement between the city and their side, today, the king of the S-Dimension duelists would showcase his skill in a duel and demonstrate the unique dueling style of his dimension. Dear viewers, the exciting duel of our king is finally here. The MC stood on a plane, shouting excitedly into the mic, "Turbo Duel! The soul of our city!" With his cry, a thunderous engine roar suddenly erupted under the watchful eyes of countless duelists and spectators from both worlds. A white motorcycle shaped like a ring sped into view. The ring-shaped white motorcycle halted in front of Kaibacorp's temporary base after a burst of high-speed movement. It spun to the side with a screeching sound and came to a stop. A blond man wearing white goggles placed one foot on the ground, one hand resting on his D-wheel, and the other pointing toward the sky as he shouted, "There is only one king, and that is me. Jack Atlas. King Jack Atlas. The undisputed monarch of our city," the MC screamed with all his might. Even the students on Kaiba Corp's side were stunned by Jack's grand entrance. Never mind his actual strength, just look at how cool he is. Jack Atlas was a textbook blonde pretty boy, and with that set of moves and lines, his looks alone could make 3 girls fight over him. Jack didn't say another word. He simply stared straight toward the Kaiba Corp side, more precisely, at Seto Kaiba. Seto Kaiba watched him with great interest. This guy was different from the previous cannon fodder. In Kaiba's view, all the S-dimension duelists they'd sent so far were just filler, except for that one named UCI. However, this king was different. He actually seemed promising. Then, King's opponent is, from another dimension, representing the South American Branch Academy. Duelist Angmar. Angmar? Hikaru glanced over at the Fusion Army. He was one of the Fusion Army's participants. Hikaru hadn't even known his name until his first appearance. How to describe his duels? Well, he did win, but not very gracefully. Kaiba Corp staff had complaints about him. He was the kind of duelist you'd call problematic. Hikaru thought about it. Looks like this Jack is probably the original version of Jack, not from the manga or ArcV. As absurd as it might seem, that's the reality. Just judging by Jack's chosen opponent shows how strong he is. Manga Jack debuted by beating up UCI. ArcV Jack debuted by beating up Yuya. Both were powerhouses who crushed protagonists. But the original Jack was different. Even though UCI recalled getting beaten up by him once, the original Jack's status as king had some manipulation behind it and wasn't as dominant as the other 2 versions. Often, Rex Goodwin would use various means to set up Jack's matches, sometimes even coercing opponents to throw the match. Though Jack might have been capable of winning anyway, he definitely wasn't invincible. Likewise, it looked like this world's security bureau had selected a very particular opponent for Jack. Someone who technically won, but didn't impress, and was kind of off-putting. Having such a person participate in a turbo duel he'd never done before, as Jack's opponent for his interdimensional debut, was practically flawless. Angmar was flustered too. With Kaiba Corp's help, he managed to mount a D-wheel, then nervously asked how to duel like this. When he found out he had to drive while dueling, he immediately shook his head. He might be a Fusion Army duelist, yet he didn't know how to drive. Don't worry, it's an exhibition match, so the vehicle is set to autopilot, and the speed won't be too fast, someone from Kaiba Corp explained, finally easing his anxiety. Well then, that's fine, hahaha. In that case, let the world witness the power of the Fusion Army. Now, let me introduce to our interdimensional audience, a brand new duel. An evolved duel, the MC, now on a raised platform, shouted while high-stepping past a motorcycle. Turbo Duel. The new dueling method promoted in our world. Both players race on D-wheels, blessed by the wind, with one goal, to surpass their opponent. Surpass the opponent. Surpass the opponent. The rules are simple, 2 new rules on top of normal duels. First, the first duelist to complete the full course wins. Second, if your D-wheel remains stationary for too long during the duel, you lose. Each turn, the high-speed world of Turbo Duel grants duelists 1 speed counter. The more speed counters, the faster your D-wheel goes. Likewise, taking heavy damage will make you lose speed counters. Hikaru listened to the rules and nodded. They were mostly as he remembered. Though really, completing the course and D-wheel stalling were essentially non-factors, Hikaru had never seen anyone actually finish the course, and during the World Championship, Jack even pushed his D-wheel by hand and was fine. In reality, the duel was what mattered most. And it sounded like spell cards could be used normally in this world's turbo duels. That made things even easier. Even if he never took part in a turbo duel, that was good news. At least he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to use fusion someday. Chapter 193, Changes in the Event. Jack, go for it. Inside the dueling arena fence, Yugo and Rin shouted at the top of their lungs to cheer for Jack. Jack glanced their way, noticed UCI standing behind them, lowered his gaze slightly, and said nothing. He simply twisted his D-wheel's handlebars and gave a small wave. Wow! Go, Jack! The 2 little kids were die-hard fans. Seeing Jack respond made them even more excited. Then, the MC saw both duelists in position, raised his hand, and shouted, 3, 2, 1. Turbo Duel, accelerate! V-Room! Before his opponent could even react, Jack surged forward with a burst of speed and darted out onto the track. The first player to round the corner takes the first turn. Oh! Our king is already in the lead with Angmar close behind. Jack goes first. I'll take the first turn, my turn. Jack drew a card and smoothly inserted it into the slot on his D-wheel. Then he pulled out a card, normal summon level 2 tuner monster, Force Resonator. A small devil with a light bulb on its back and sparks flying from its hands gently tapped its fork as it flew out from the card. When I summon a Resonator monster, this card's attack is halved and it can be special summoned, special summon, level 6 Red Warg. Vroom! A massive flaming wolf emerged from the card. Jack accelerated hard, turned, and shouted toward his opponent. Tune level 2 tuner monster Force Resonator with level 6 Red Warg. Synchro summon Stardust Dragon. With his shout, a white-winged dragon with an alien-like form burst forth from a glowing halo, soaring alongside Jack's D-wheel, Wheel of Fortune. Stardust Dragon, level 8 WEND Dragon 2500 ATK. Stardust Dragon? Rin and Yugo simultaneously looked toward UCI upon seeing the monster. UCI said nothing, staying silent. Stardust. Over on the Kaiba Corp side, Jaden, who had gotten close to UCI over the past few days, was equally astonished by the monster. I set one card and end my turn. Heh, the king of the S dimension, huh? Angmar drove from behind and chuckled. Looks like those guys are still too afraid of Synchro and XYZ. A dimensional king isn't much after all. Nothing impressive. Looks like I'll win today, become the Fusion Army's figurehead, maybe even get promoted to general. Seeing that Jack had summoned a monster with only 2,500 attack, he immediately regained confidence and wasn't nervous anymore. My turn, draw. Hee, let's take a look at your hand first. I activate the spell card confiscation. I pay 1,000 life points to look at your hand and discard one card. Angmar, LP, 4,000 3,000. Jack pressed the display on his D-wheel expressionlessly, allowing the entire audience to see. There was a level 5 monster, a level 3 monster, and the spell card monster reborn. I get how this synchro thing works now. Without a tuner, it's useless, right? He glanced at Jack's hand and laughed. I activate Confiscation's effect to send your level 3 tuner to the graveyard. Without expression, Jack discarded Dark Resonator to the graveyard. Though Jack still had Monster Reborn, Angmar wasn't worried. He had the continuous trap card Anti-Spell Fragrance in hand. As long as it was active, spell cards couldn't be used right away. By next turn, Jack's high-level monsters would be stuck. Next, I activate the spell card Polymerization. I fused the Forgiving Maiden and Dark Lord Marie from my hand. Fusion Summon. Saint Joan. A beam of holy light descended. A sacred maiden appeared within the glow, brandishing a long sword and facing down the dragon before her. Saint Joan, level 7 Light Fairy 2800 ATK. Battle. Saint Joan, attack that weird dragon. Ha! Saint Joan raised her sword, leapt forward, and slashed the Stardust Dragon. Jack's D-wheel wobbled from the impact, as if about to tip over. Jack, LP, 4,000 3,700. Jack! Jack! Some fangirls who had even come all the way from the satellite district to see Jack had their hearts shattered at the sight. Even Yugo and Rin shouted his name. But as the dust cleared, Jack, driving Wheel of Fortune, kept riding steadily. A collective sigh of relief swept over his fans. I set a card and end my turn. Angmar ended his turn with full confidence. Meanwhile, Jack remained silent, offering no response. At the same time. Wait, ugh. At the Council of Elders, Rex Goodwin walked forward with a gentle smile. Inside the chamber, corpses lay strewn about. Hands behind his back, he looked at the elders, his smile unchanged. To prevent interdimensional threats to their regime, the Council had been increasing security measures by the day. Today, with nearly 90% of security dispatched to maintain order in the satellite district for Jack's turbo duel, Goodwin saw his chance. His plan was simple and direct. He didn't even use any supernatural powers. He simply strolled into the Council of Elders. "Goodwin, what are you doing?" One elder tried to confront him, but the barrel of a gun was already pointed at him. Bang! He fell. Wait, Goodwin, you're a duelist, right? I know you've always wanted power. We can settle this like duelists. Another elder pleaded. A duel? With me? Goodwin listened, his smile never fading. You people? You who don't even understand what a duel is. Or maybe you mean those backers you got from another dimension? You knew? Goodwin slowly revealed a hand behind his back, a few cards slipping from his fingers, bent and mangled cards depicting terrified human faces, not monsters. The Fusion Army? Pathetic. Can't even manage your own world, and yet you reach out to trade with other dimensions? Rest easy. I'll lead this world to a brighter future, a future where I become a god. He chuckled as he wiped fresh blood from his glove, turning to face the screen. It was Jack's turn. He rode his D-wheel to the center of the track, raised a hand, and pointed at a cameraman in a trailing helicopter. A king's duel must be entertaining. First turn, reveal a monster to show the king's mercy. Second turn, give your opponent a chance to display themselves. Third turn, sweep them away like autumn leaves. Hooah! Jack hack. Jack. My turn. Jack floored the gas pedal. Drawl. TCH, all that talk, and you think you'll win this turn? I activate the continuous trap card anti-spell fragrance. As long as it's on the field, spell cards can't be activated unless set first, and can't be used until the next turn. So what? When I have no monsters and the opponent does, this card can be special summoned with its attack and defense have special summon, level 5 Vice Dragon. Jack played a pitch black dragon. Next, I flip my face-down card, Call of the Haunted. Jack ignored his opponent's protests and activated the trap. This card lets me special summon one monster from the graveyard. Even if it's Stardust Dragon. I revive the level 3 tuner monster, Dark Resonator. TCH. Jack glanced at his opponent, then raised his voice. Interdimensional one, I feel no fire in your soul, no passion for dueling. So the king shall show you true overwhelming might. I tune level 3 Dark Resonator with level 5 Vice Dragon. It was as if magma erupted from the earth. As Jack rode forward, an inferno surged from the darkness. Tear through the pitch-black abyss and burn the world to ash, O sovereign ruler of supreme power. Tremble beneath his majestic might. Synchro Summon. Level 8. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. A massive black dragon with long horns emerged from the flames, swung its tail, and let out a mighty roar. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, Level 8 DRK Dragon 3000 ATK. 3000 attack. Angmar gulped. But still, that's not. I activate Hot Red Dragon Archfiend's effect. Once per turn, during my main phase, destroy all other face-up attack position monsters on the field. What? The demonic dragon soared into the air and slammed into the ground. A wave of flames engulfed St. Joan, reducing her to ashes. No. Battle. My soul. Direct attack. Crimson Blaze Strike. After splitting the ground with molten lava, the dragon flapped its wings, flew toward Angmar, and smashed his D-wheel with a heavy punch. Airbags deployed, cushioning the impact for the dimension-hopping duelist. Angmar, LP, 3000. At the same time, security officers rushed in to escort Angmar to Kybercorp's base. Jack snorted. He was done with these tedious opponents, especially ones with no heart for dueling. Without looking back, he turned his D-wheel and drove toward Kybercorp's base. Moments later, everyone on the field saw the figure on the Wheel of Fortune. Whether stunned or amazed, they all marveled at the king of the S dimension. Screech. Jack stopped his D-wheel and leaned on it casually. Yugo, Rin, and even many satellite locals shouted excitedly. As expected of Jack. That's our Jack. A hero of the people. The MC jumped down from the plane and ran over to interview him, but Jack suddenly raised a hand, cutting him off. He pointed at Kaiba Corp. To be exact, at one person. Interesting. Wait, Jack. That's not in the plan. A woman's voice buzzed in his earpiece. Shut it. Jack raised his hand and pointed toward the distance, fire burning in his eyes. My soul is telling me that if I don't act now, I'll never get another chance. It's burning, screaming that this is what I must do. You're a duelist too, right? Duel me. Right now. Everyone at Kaiba Corp was stunned. The first to react was Chaz, who stepped in front of Seto Kaiba and shouted, Master, let me handle. Mr. President. Several Kaiba Corp staff also jumped forward. Interesting. Yet, before they could finish, a loud, spirited voice interrupted. Very interesting. Jack Atlas, is it? This is getting good. He extended a hand. His younger brother handed him an ancient duel disc, already preloaded with a deck. Why not? After watching duels all day, his own hands were itching too. Chapter 194, another monster that symbolizes the world. Even though neither of them wanted to duel. For duelists, once they decide to duel, no one can stop them. Kaiba hasn't been this fired up in a long time. Not far off, Yugi Muto muttered, peering through a telescope and noticing the upward curl of Seto Kaiba's lips. Mr. Yugi, is this really okay? Master, Chaz sounded somewhat panicked. Chaz, President Kaiba is a legendary duelist. There's no way he'd ever back down from a challenge. Jaden said casually, hands behind his head. On the other side, Hikaru sighed as he watched Seto Kaiba striding toward the track and mounting a motorcycle modeled after Blue Eye's white dragon that he had apparently prepared in secret. Seto Kaiba, despite appearances, wasn't all that serious, or rather, deep down, he was a total Chinibu who loved dunking on weaker players. In the original GX, Jaden had a period of doubt, haunted by the fear of losing and the guilt of letting his friends die to the Shadow Riders. During that time, a mysterious Kaibaman appeared and dueled him, using the overwhelming power of a Blue Eyes deck to momentarily make Jaden forget defeat. Though the students assumed Kaibaman was a duel monster spirit, there was one thing about him that no real duel monster would ever have: the cards hanging from his neck like a necklace. Yes, that was Seto Kaiba, a high-tech genius who was equal parts Chinibu, show-off, and smooth stomper. On the other side, Jack Atlas had a trait in the original story, too: he never lost a duel while standing. But once he got on a D-wheel? He was a crash-prone disaster. Vroom! The two accelerated their D-wheels and burst onto the track. It was the same track as before. Although Kaiba was a genius in everything, he was still far behind Jack when it came to blazing down a D-wheel. As such, Jack once again took the first turn. My turn. Jack drew a card. He felt a bit of pressure. Just seeing Seto Kaiba, he could already sense the difference between them: an intense, volatile duelist spirit. For someone who hadn't grown in a long time, it lit a fire deep inside him. I normal summon level 3 tuner monster Phantom King Hydride. He slapped the card onto his D-wheel and followed up by raising another card: if I control a tuner monster, I can special summon this. Special summon level 3 Magical King Moonstar. With his shout, a mounted demon and a lunar demon burst forth from the cards. Next came the tuning. Tune level 3 Phantom King with level 3 Magical King. The moon demon became a glowing halo, and the mounted demon split into 3 stars. Oh, Sirius that burns the sky. Lone wolf with emerald eyes. Rip apart the toothless mongrel shackled to the earth. Synchro summon. Celestial wolf lord, blue Sirius. A 3-headed demon hound rose from the ground and began to sprint wildly alongside Jack's D-wheel. Celestial wolf lord, blue Sirius, level 60 RK Beast Warrior 2400 ATK. I set 2 cards and end my turn. Not bad, I guess. Kaiba glanced at Jack's play, tapped the accelerator, and with a beep, gained 1 speed counter. My turn, draw. I activate the spell card Bingo Machine, go. Bingo Machine? Jack looked surprised. I select 3 cards from my deck whose names contain Blue Eyes or that list Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in their text. My opponent randomly selects 1, the rest go back into the deck. As he acted, a giant lottery machine appeared mid-racetrack and floated alongside them. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Jack gasped. He wasn't the only one, nearly everyone watching the duel cried out in shock. TT, that's the legendary monster, Blue Eyes White Dragon, the MC shouted, hoarse. This isn't a dream, is it? That mythical beast has returned to this world? Even in a world without Kaiba Corp, Blue Eyes was still a legendary card. In truth, no matter the dimension, as long as you duel, you know Blue Eyes White Dragon. Any monster with 3000 attack makes people shout, what? It has the same attack as Blue Eyes? Its meme tier fame was so strong, even people in this world were stunned to see it. I'll pick these 3, Kaiba revealed, Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon, Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon, and Burst Stream of Destruction. The cards turned into glowing orbs and entered the lottery machine, which began to spin violently. Come on, shout stop. Ugh. Jack felt a sudden pressure. Just that gesture from Kaiba made him feel an immense weight. Regardless, there was no turning back, stop. Click. The machine halted, and a small orb slowly rolled out of the chute. As S-Dimension spectators and Jack watched with bated breath, a card began to materialize. Many instinctively gulped. Even Jack barely dared breathe. Lucky me, I had Burst Stream of Destruction to my hand. Phew. At least it wasn't one of the high ATK monsters. You thought that was it? Naive. As the audience sighed with relief, Kaiba played another card. I activate the spell card Cards of Consonance. Discard a Dragon-type tuner with 1000 or less ATK to draw 2 cards. A Dragon-type tuner monster? Jack froze. Where has an interdimensional guy gotten? Wait, no. In an instant, he realized something. You wouldn't have. Exactly, I discard the White Stone of Legend to draw 2. Then activate its effect. When sent to the graveyard, it adds 1, Blue Eyes White Dragon, from my deck to my hand. Normal summon, Ally of Justice, Kaibaman. Then activate his effect. I tribute this card. To special summon, my loyal servant. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Rare. The ultimate dragon revealed itself. Glossy white scales, radiant azure eyes, divine brilliance like pure light. This was a card etched into the hearts of countless duelists. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon, level 8 Light Dragon 3000 ATK. This is the monster that symbolizes our world. Open your eyes and witness its majesty. Chapter 195, Cards that shouldn't be used. Battle. Blue Eyes White Dragon, attack Celestial Wolf Lord, Blue Sirius, Burst Stream of Destruction. Blue Eyes White Dragon opened its jaws and gathered a storm of energy before unleashing a scorching blast of light, obliterating the 3-headed demon hound in an instant. Jack, LP, 3400. At this moment, Blue Sirius's effect activates. When it's destroyed, I can reduce one monster's attack points. A spectral wolf emerged from a dark pit and bit into Blue Eyes' body. Blue Eyes White Dragon, ATK, 3600. Roar. Reduced Blue Eyes' attack, huh? Kaiba glanced at the wolf mark now etched on Blue Eyes, which was still flying beside him on the track, and smiled lightly. I set one card and end my turn. V-Room. Both riders sped past a rescue squad stationed along the track. Kaiba glanced sideways and spotted Angmar still shouting and demanding a rematch with Jack. He scoffed. Pathetic duelist. My turn. Jack drew with a snap. His breathing hitched slightly, but he was exhilarated. I activate my trap, Descending Lost Star. This card lets me special summon one Synchro monster from my graveyard in defense position with its level reduced by 1 and def set to 0. Its effects are negated, and it can't change battle positions. I revived Blue Sirius. Celestial Wolf Lord, Blue Sirius, def, 1500 0, level, 6-5. Normal summon level 3 tuner monster, Dark Resonator. I tune level 3 Dark Resonator with level 5 Blue Sirius. Behold the King's Wrath, witness the power that shakes heaven and earth. Synchro Summon. My Soul. Red Dragon Archfiend. Jack clenched his right hand into a fist and slammed it against his chest. Flames seemed to erupt from his body. From the inferno emerged a new, slightly different demonic dragon, similar to Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. Red Dragon Archfiend, level 8 DRK Dragon 3000 ATK. There it is, Jack's true ace, the symbol of his soul, Red Dragon Archfiend. Oh? A dark dragon type with 3000 attack? Kaiba stared down the monster without a hint of fear. Very well, bring it on. I activate the spell card, Monster Reborn, to revive Blue Sirius from the graveyard. Jack, sweating, stared at Kaiba's composed expression as he activated another spell card. Oh. That's our Jack. If this attack lands, it'll deal 4,800 damage. This could be our king's victory, the MC shouted, and the audience roared in kind. But, would it really be that easy? Battle. Red Dragon Archfiend attack Blue Eyes White Dragon. Overwhelming force. Red Dragon Archfiend roared and struck Blue Eyes with a mighty claw, shattering it. Seto Kaiba, LP, 4,1600. Kaiba lost a speed counter and his D-wheel slowed down. Next, Blue Sirius attacks directly. Naive. Kaiba countered with a shout. I activate my face-down counter gate. When my opponent declares a direct attack, negate the attack, draw one card. If it's a monster, I can normal summon it in face-up attack position. Back off, mutt. As the three jaws of Blue Sirius were about to clamp down, they halted mid-air. Simultaneously, Kaiba drew a card. He didn't even look at it. He flipped it around and revealed it. Of course I drew Blue Eyes White Dragon. TCH. Jack's expression tightened, and he called off the attack. End turn, he followed up. At the end of the turn, Red Dragon Archfiend's effect activates. It destroys all other monsters on my field that didn't declare an attack. But Blue Sirius attacked, so it's safe. Overwhelming force, is it? Ha! Kaiba drew a card. His hand was still full. I reveal a Blue Eyes White Dragon in my hand to special summon my new servant, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. A silver white dragon, leaner and sharper than Blue Eyes White Dragon, materialized on the field. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, level 8 Light Dragon 3000 ATK. W what? A 3000 ATK monster summoned without tribute or tuning, the MC shouted. This card can be special summoned by revealing Blue Eyes White Dragon in your hand. While it's on the field or in the graveyard, it counts as Blue Eyes White Dragon. NGH. Jack felt the dragon's pressure pressing down on him, his breath ragged. No matter, its attack is the same. You think matching Blue Eyes in attack is enough? Foolish. I activate the spell, Burst Stream of Destruction. A spell with the same name as Blue Eyes White Dragon's attack, a spectator exclaimed. If I control Blue Eyes White Dragon, destroy all monsters my opponent controls. What? The MC gasped. What a brutal effect. Not that simple, Jack countered, flipping a trap card. I activate Starlight Road. Ha! Kaiba blinked. When a card effect would destroy two or more cards I control, I negate and destroy that card, then special summon Stardust Dragon from my extra deck. With a haunting cry, a strange, alien-feeling dragon soared from the sky and blocked the incoming blast. Stardust Dragon, level 8 WEND Dragon 2500 ATK. The radiant dragon spread its wings wide, scattering stardust across the track. That monster? Kaiba frowned at the card. Starlight Road. Yugo squinted at the screen. Isn't that UCI's card? Jack. Rin murmured, sensing something. Jack let out a long breath. The activation of that card saved him from Blue Eyes' destruction, and Stardust Dragon now offered protection. Wretched. Suddenly, Kaiba's tone shifted sharply. He stood atop his D-wheel and pointed at Jack. Pathetic. You use that card to duel me? What? Jack reeled. Foolish. Utterly disappointing. That I let Blue Eyes fight against someone like you. You're worse than a second-year student who only uses fusion. Hearing this, every duelist from this world simultaneously turned to look at Hikaru. Hikaru, who had planned to slack off today, blinked in confusion. What? Even so, deep down, he understood, as did everyone present. If Seto Kaiba had singled someone out by name, it meant one thing: he had noticed them. And recognized them. What did you say? Jack roared. You're afraid, aren't you, not of Blue Eyes, but of failure? That's not a card you would ever use. Chapter 196, Strong. Invincible. Strongest. You dare say. I'm afraid of failure. I, the king of New Domino. Jack gritted his teeth and roared. Oof. Are you a mediocre duelist who can't even admit the truth to himself? Jack clenched his jaw but said nothing. He understood. Ever since he left the satellite district, since he joined the security bureau, since he became a pro duelist, he could feel it. He hadn't grown. Not at all. He was still the same as when he parted ways with UCI. Even though he now had new synchro monsters like Blue Sirius in his deck, nothing had truly changed. No, maybe he'd even gotten weaker. Maybe, at some point, he really did become afraid. Afraid of failure. Afraid of seeing his old friends. Maybe even. But the desire to climb higher made him keep moving forward. That's why, after defeating yet another boring opponent, he went off script from the Security Bureau's plan and challenged Seto Kaiba because his heart demanded it. Activate the effect of Blue Eyes' alternative White Dragon. Destroy one monster on his field. Be gone, eyesore of a dragon. He targeted Stardust Dragon. Stardust Dragon's effect. When a card or effect would destroy a card on the field, I contribute this card to negate and destroy that effect. Sanctuary of the Sacrificed. Though his mind was a mess, Jack activated the effect. I don't know what's going on anymore, but our king has cleanly dealt with the new Blue Eyes. The MC shouted, his mind also spinning, while his instincts as a commentator kicked in. Quick play spell Ultimate Fusion. As the cheering swelled, Kaiba played another new spell card. This is Blue Eyes' exclusive fusion spell. Kaiba declared. By returning Blue Eyes White Dragons from my hand, field, or graveyard to the deck, I can fusion summon a monster that lists Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon as material. Fusion. Ah. Yes, until now. Kaiba hadn't even used fusion yet. I returned Blue Eyes White Dragon and Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon from the graveyard, and another Blue Eyes from my hand to the deck. Descend now, my most powerful servant, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Ah. Wah-wah. My god. A snow-white dragon slowly lifted its massive heads. 3 pairs of piercing eyes focused in unison on Jack. The ultimate form of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Level 1 to Light Dragon 4500 ATK. This is... The MC murmured, stunned even in his professionalism, the return of a legend. What do you think? This is the most powerful, most ultimate dragon in history. Kaiba crossed his arms, his hair whipping in the wind. Battle! Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, destroy that false dragon. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon inhaled deeply and unleashed 3 massive bursts of destructive energy. Red Dragon Archfiend was erased in an instant. Jack, LP, 3400-1900. End of turn. At this moment, Jack had slowed down. The 2 D-wheels now raced side by side, while the track was only halfway completed. Kaiba glanced sideways at Jack and gave a low snort. My turn. Jack heard Kaiba's words, and his heart blazed. What did he mean? I wouldn't use that kind of card? Impossible. Any card that brings victory should be acceptable to a duelist. Even Kaiba used Countergate. V-Room. He roared past the viewer displays on the sidelines, catching glimpses of UCI, Yugo, Hikaru. A student who only uses fusion, and UCI. Boom boom, his heartbeat thundered. I wouldn't use that kind of card? Not just Starlight Road, more importantly. Stardust Dragon. He glanced at the Stardust Dragon in his graveyard, unable to revive it due to summon limitations. Realization dawned. Of course. His heart pounded. His body felt like it was on fire. Dueling you was the right choice. But Blue Eyes is disappointed in you. Humph. I'll show you what it means to be the king of the city. He finally understood. Yes. Only by dueling a true powerhouse could his frozen heart burn once more. My turn, draw. I switch Blue Sirius to defense position, then set 2 cards. End turn. Oh? Switching Blue Sirius? You want me to destroy it and lower my attack again? Try it and find out. Humph, my turn. Battle. I activate my set card, Call of the Haunted. Jack reused a once-spent trap card. I special summon Red Dragon Archfiend from my graveyard. Revive, my soul. Red Dragon Archfiend beat its burning wings and returned from the grave. Red Dragon Archfiend, level 8 DRK Dragon 3000 ATK. He revived Red Dragon Archfiend on purpose, the MC cried out. Why, Jack? That puts your monster right in front of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Shut up. I have my own duel to play. Jack roared. Ha, how interesting. Then let's battle. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, destroy my enemy. Attack Red Dragon Archfiend Ultimate Burst. All 3 heads targeted Jack's dragon. Energy gathered to annihilate. But at that moment, Jack flipped a trap card, Prideful Roar. During damage calculation, if my monster's ATK is lower than yours, I can pay the difference in life points. Then, during this calculation only, my monster gains ATK equal to the difference plus 300. I pay 1500 LP. What? Jack sacrificed his own life for Red Dragon Archfiend, the MC screamed. What resolve? I'll fight alongside Red Dragon Archfiend to the end. Jack's body seemed to ignite with real red flames. Jack, LP, 1900 400. Counterattack, Red Dragon Archfiend. Red Dragon Archfiend, ATK, 3000 4800. Red Dragon Archfiend roared and pushed back the force of the Ultimate Dragon. Against all odds, it shattered the destructive beam. Seto Kaiba, LP, 1600 1300. Red Dragon Archfiend, ATK, 4800 3000. How's that, Kaiba? My Red Dragon Archfiend is no less than your Blue Eyes. Ha! Now that's more like it. Kaiba still looked unbothered, as if he hadn't taken a single hit. Jack felt a pang of pressure. Whoa! He took down the Ultimate Dragon. That's Jack for you. Our king. City's citizens cheered with wild joy. Even Yugo and Rin forgot their earlier concerns and joined in. To them, it looked like Jack had won. But then Kaiba, still in the lead with more speed counters, roared ahead, interesting. My heart's finally starting to boil. Ha! I'm pumped too. Jack said. I haven't felt this way in ages. Jack Atlas. Kaiba raised his right fist. You've only just stepped through the door of a new dimension of duels. There are endless unknown duels in this world, the universe, even other dimensions. You've seen it now. The path of dueling is endless. Tribute, ritual, fusion, XYZ, synchro. Will you stop here? No way. Jack snorted. Exactly. Kaiba nodded, then looked to the screens, the audience, Yugi Muto, his own disciples, duelists from other worlds, and Hikaru. That's right. Believe in your duels. Believe in your monsters. Believe in your soul and in your faith. Trust in your deck, and charge forward on the path before you. You've already fallen far behind those duelists who walk a path with a determined future. This is the future of duelists. In his heart, Kaiba was already imagining a cross-dimensional, ultimate duel tournament. Only the strongest, those who had transcended all limits, would be worthy to join. Among the students, he had already found a promising seedling. And he had long since surpassed his past self. Jack finally realized. This man, Seto Kaiba, his heart had long left the bounds of a single world. I commend your courage in challenging Blue Eyes. But playtime ends now. What? I activate quick play spell Rage with Eyes of Blue. I banish every card on my field, in my graveyard, and in my hand, face down, including this card. What kind of card demands that? The MC croaked. Isn't that basically instant surrender? However, from Kaiba's view, this was his final move. Special summon up to 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons from my deck. What? Jack's eyes widened. Come forth, my loyal servants. Whoosh. 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons emerged, their pristine wings gleaming. 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Humph, this is the end. My loyal servants, battle. Annihilate my enemy. The 3 dragons gathered power and launched their attacks toward different targets. In that instant, the city's cameras all malfunctioned and cut to other footage. Only one crazed voice echoed across the base's skies. Sturdy. Unbeatable. Supreme. Shatter. Pulverize. Applause. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 197. At the climactic moment of the final attack, the broadcast abruptly cut out. Furious curses erupted from viewers everywhere. Even duelists at the Kaiba Corp base were yelling in frustration. Right then, nobody cared who had pulled the plug or what the reason was. Everyone wanted to know one thing: who won? Judging by the last visible moment, Seto Kaiba's 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons were preparing to attack. Even if Blue Sirius reduced their attack points, Jack wouldn't have had enough life points left. But because the final scene wasn't shown, it sparked fierce debate. Did Jack lose? No way. It's not over, Jack would never lose. But King had no cards left to block. He still had his hand. Maybe a defensive red card. He had something. Whether he did or not, didn't matter. Hikaru had already figured out that Jack lost the moment the screen changed. Crashing out and losing control? That was classic Jack. And he was right. While trying to avoid attacks from the 3 Blue Eyes, Jack lost control and crashed mid-race. Despite that, he was a seasoned turbo duelist. The damage was minor. He got back up, righted his D-wheel, and followed Kaiba back to base. Then, Kaiba casually tossed his gear to his subordinates. As Chaz stepped up to offer congratulations, the base's monitors finally flickered back to life. Static turned into a new feed. A refined, calm middle-aged man appeared on screen. He began by apologizing for the incident during the final exhibition match, then explained that internal unrest had erupted within City. As head of the Security Bureau, he was forced to step in and thus lost oversight of the duel broadcast. However, the Turbo Duel's MC and camera crew had recorded everything, so the result would not be lost. Once the Fortune Cup concluded and a new champion was crowned, a video of the duel would be released. Always protecting the King's reputation, someone muttered. Wasn't this just an excuse to hide any footage that might tarnish King's image? If a new champ emerged next time, they could release the video. If not, it stayed shelved. Still, to force Master to bring out Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and even force him to banish his entire field and graveyard, Jack Atlas really was something, Chaz mused, recalling Jack's monsters. Red Dragon Archfiend, Stardust Dragon, Blue Sirius, every one of them was top tier. Honestly, if he'd been in Jack's shoes, he would have felt the pressure. That guy was strong. Really strong. King wasn't just a title. Hikaru, however, said nothing. Was Jack strong? Of course, he was. In canon, he was the undefeated while standing duelist. His record proved his skill. Even so, on the other hand, Hikaru hadn't forgotten that during the Bingo Machine Go moment, Kaiba had revealed Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon and Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon. They hadn't even been used. But Hikaru understood their implications. It meant Kaiba's deck still had a whole arsenal of advanced new cards. The rumor that Kaiba hadn't updated his deck due to spending all his time exploring parallel worlds? Total fiction. If this was his outdated version, then wherever Kaiba went during his explorations, he'd obviously been hunting for Blue Eyes cards. Just like Jaden, the hero fanboy. TCH, looks like that guy did a lot of things back in his own world. Gloria Tyler scoffed with arms crossed, unimpressed by Goodwin's explanation. A coup. Plain and simple. Truthfully, ever since discovering the S-Dimension, the Polymerization Club had been trying to make contact with this world. After all, the simplest way to invade is with collaborators. Though this world had massive energy resources, they hadn't found efficient ways to use them. Naturally, they were interested in the dimensional gate system. Some elders refused to cooperate with the fusion army. But others craved power, or even immortality. Those elders were perfect pawns for the fusion army. Unfortunately, even without a report, Gloria could guess what Goodwin had done, used this as the perfect moment to purge them all. Dimensional exchange brought attention from everywhere. For Goodwin, this was the perfect time to clean house with ease. And she had to admit. For someone who wanted to do big things, it was the correct move. Just like the Fusion Army's leader, Professor Leo Akaba. Though he dreamed of expanding Fusion's banner, Seto Kaiba's presence kept him cautious. He couldn't act openly, only wait for the right chance. If a chance like this appeared in their world, she believed Professor Akaba would have seized it too. What she didn't realize. Goodwin didn't waste time purging enemies. He erased everyone. Good, bad, it made no difference. Now came the era of dimensional exchange, card sharing, and more. Hikaru didn't care for politics. On the flip side, card exchange? That got his attention. Simple reason. It meant he could buy cards. Time to load up in this dimension. Kaiba Corp had already said it. This Friendship Cup was the start of contact with the S-Dimension. Throughout the 15 days, there were negotiations with the Security Bureau during every standard duel. And truthfully, this was the most valuable thing for participating duelists, getting to trade or buy cards from the Bureau. Funds were provided by Kaiba Corp. Based on each duelist's performance over the 15 days, they were awarded points. These points could be used to buy cards from the Security Bureau. That was the promised prize pool. There were also appearance fees and travel stipends. Since Kaiba Corp was never stingy, they made sure no student left empty-handed. The Security Bureau offered card packs currently popular in their world. If lucky, one might even pull rare synchro monsters. To students, this was incredibly tempting. As the first duelist to fight, Hikaru had won, performed well, and showcased a card symbolic of his world. He earned high marks. Plus, with personal recognition from Yugi Muto, he had the highest points and could purchase the most packs. So, on the last day, Hikaru and his friends eagerly ran to the temporary Security Bureau shop to try their luck. Even though Synchro was dominant in this world, there were still plenty of fusion cards and fusion monsters. After all, the Dragon Necro Nethersol Dragon Skull Knight used earlier was a fusion card. And there, Hikaru spotted a familiar figure. Well, maybe not unexpected. A group of students whispered while glancing at a muscular man casually examining card packs, smiling as he picked some up, studied their packaging and artwork, then either bought them or kept mulling. Yugi Muto. His reason for coming to this world was obvious. To see the cards of this dimension and study its games. When Hikaru and Jaden Yuki burst into the shop, he looked up at the noise. Seeing the Duel Academy students, he smiled and waved. Perfect timing. I found something really interesting, he said with a smile, raising a pack slightly in his hand. Come check it out with me. Chapter 198, Ideas and New Cards. The group found a table and gathered around it. Everyone held a few card packs in their hands. Some had more, some less. The least, unsurprisingly, was Jessie, who had lost. Next was Alexis, who had faced Rin. Her life gain and monster control deck had some advantage against Rin's burn strategy, but her performance wasn't great, so her score was the second lowest. Around the table, Hikaru sat beside Alexis, hugging a pack of cards as he curiously peeked toward Yugi. Some of the card packs were even ones Yugi had helped him pick. Yugi carefully tore open a pack, expertly ensuring the cards were undamaged, and pulled them out. He had come to this world for its cards, therefore, Kaiba Corp had generously given him lots of points. Technically, if he wanted, he could have taken every Security Bureau card pack back for study. But he wouldn't do that. He looked across the table at Chaz, noting his anxious expression, then smiled. You're Chaz, right? Why yes. Mr. Yugi Muto. No need to be formal. Just call me Yugi. Then, Mr. Yugi. Yugi chuckled and shook his head. Looking from the cards in his hand to the packs Chaz held, he suggested, how about this, let's build a deck right here using only the cards from our packs. Just on this table. Really? I get to duel you. Chaz was shocked. Ever since Yugi Muto turned to game design and expanded into other games, he has rarely been seen dueling. Not even his own mentor had dueled him since. It's just a friendly game, no need to overthink it, Yugi said. Let's enjoy it. Yes. Absolutely. Chaz was thrilled. Across from Hikaru, Jaden and Jessie had their arms around each other. Seeing this unfold, Jaden blurted out enviously, man, I want to duel Mr. Yugi too. As he opened another pack, Yugi casually glanced at the cards, stacked them together, and gently shuffled. You're one of Kaiba's students, right, Chaz? Why yes. You looked pretty frustrated about your score. Totally. I should have scored the same as Jaden, no, the same as Hikaru. Yugi didn't argue with Chaz's passionate response. As they set up their field, Yugi said, actually, Kaiba wasn't happy either. Chaz's eyes widened. What? Not about you. Sorry, I didn't phrase that well, Yugi coughed, then clarified, he wasn't satisfied with the overall duel results. Ugh. Jessie sighed. From your perspective, we won most of the duels against the S Dimension, and did well. But to Kaiba, it wasn't good enough. Why? Chaz asked. He'd always wanted to understand how his teacher thought, what he aimed for. But Kaiba was like an ultra-intensified version of himself, so he'd never dared ask. That left him confused whenever they spoke. Yugi moved one of his cards forward, declaring an attack on one of Chaz's monsters, dropping his LP as he explained. This world only made contact with other dimensions about half a year ago. Until then, it was isolated, developing only within itself. But our world has been exploring other dimensions for years. The students who came to this Friendship Cup all did so under Kaiba Corp's support, most having already traveled through dimensional gates to the spirit world. In that sense, we're more advanced. Yugi set 4 cards on his field. And yet, despite that, our students had mediocre results against supposedly weaker duelists from this world's satellite district, some even lost. Jessie scratched his head awkwardly. Only he and one other person had lost, but that other person lost to Jack, which didn't count as embarrassing. Of course, both Yugi and Kaiba could tell that UCI wasn't an ordinary duelist, regardless, that wasn't the point. To Kaiba, their world had years of a head start. In an exchange event like this, they should have dominated. Instead, the duels felt evenly matched. Which meant the S dimension was inherently stronger. And their world's dimensional exploration had fallen behind. So that's it. I get it now, Chaz nodded. At first glance, it seemed like they had all won. However, besides certain standouts Yugo, Usui, Rin, the rest of their opponents were just tag-alongs. Some of those duelists were even younger. How could that be satisfying? You've seen it too. Kaiba wants to chase the endless summit of dueling. Everyone nodded. In this universe, no, in human history, the peak must be that legendary pharaoh in the underworld. So that was the real reason. Everyone finally understood. It's getting late. Yugi checked the time. He had other business to attend to. Looking at the table, he smiled. I should probably tell you about this world's cards now. From what I've observed, whether it's the X dimension or this world, their cards are more advanced than ours. The development paths differ, but overall, they're like evolved versions of our world's designs. What do you mean? Jaden asked instinctively. Yugi grinned, offering no explanation. Instead, he played a card. Quick play spell, mask change 2. Hikaru suddenly stood up. Those cards, he was excited. He had searched for them endlessly, even across many dimensions. And now they were here right in front of him. That's right. Yugi nodded. They exist here. He chuckled again. You recognized it right away. Guess the rumors weren't exaggerating, you really do know your fusion stuff. That's impressive. To activate it, discard one card, send one face-up monster to the graveyard, then special summon a masked hero of the same attribute and higher level from the extra deck. Masked hero? Other heroes? Jaden jumped up, stunned. Yugi sent a water monster from the field to the graveyard, then selected a blue-sleeved extra deck card and placed it on the field. This way, I can special summon Masked Hero Vapor without fusion summon. What? Jaden gasped. A brand new hero. Then, with Chasgaping, Yugi used Torrential Tribute, wiping the field. Thanks to Vapor's immunity to effects, it survived and attacked directly for the win. After the match, Yugi packed up his cards and waved goodbye to Hikaru and the others. Before he left, he even picked out a few packs for each of them. Only after he left did Hikaru and the others look down at their gifted packs. These might not just contain synchro monsters native to this world, they might even contain all new evolutions of familiar series. With a grin, Hikaru started tearing them open. The first one he opened was the one Yugi had personally picked. And the moment he saw the card inside, both he and Tiara's eyes went wide with excitement. The first card, an amazing one. Gen X Spare. A Gen X card vital to Tiara-related fusion card synthesis. Hikaru rushed to open the rest of the packs. And wouldn't you know, Yugi really had picked well. Even Hikaru, usually unlucky with draws, was suddenly on fire. The second pack wasn't special, but the third. Purple frame. Tiara gasped with a joyful wow. Inside was a brand new card. Trishula, the Dragon of Icy Imprisonment. Chapter 199, The Dragon with Fusion in his name. Trishula, the Dragon of Icy Imprisonment. One of the forms of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, level 9 with 2700 ATK. Like Tiara, Trishula is part of the DT Planet universe and is a legendary card among legends. In the infamous Infernity Trishula combo, it was once banned for its ability to banish the opponent's entire hand on the first turn, rendering them unable to play. It was so iconic that Kalen Kessler's voice actor, Yuki Ono, even recorded a special summon chant for it, a card of true legend. Within the lore of DT Planet, Trishula is renowned for being invincible. When the DT world was invaded by alien insects and the Fabled were awakened, the Guardians of the Ice Barrier debated whether to release their final dragon, the strongest of them all, Trishula. Before that, they had already awakened Bryanak and Gungnir. Perhaps due to arrogance or the escalating war, they considered new strategies. Some argued for summoning the third dragon, while others suggested they might as well summon a demon instead. In hindsight, the latter were correct. Once unsealed, Trishula rampaged, instantly freezing the entire planet, annihilating the entire Fabled tribe with ease, and even forcing the Drag Unity Knights into a mutual destruction scenario. No one knows how this native planetary dragon grew so powerful. It wasn't a creator god like Sophia or Tiara, nor a battle-hardened hero like Captain Crystal who carried the will of the planet and its people. It was just a dragon born on the planet, yet it wielded godlike power. As a famous native dragon, later DT cards released many alternate forms of it, such as Evilswarm, Nekroz, and even Zero Dragon. Trishula, the dragon of icy imprisonment, is its fusion form. However, compared to its other forms, this version is considered a bit weak. Yet that weakness has context. Its effect might be lackluster, but its fusion requirement compensates 3 monsters with different names. Just 3 monsters with different names can summon it. It can even fuse using monsters on your own field. Hikaru wondered if placing a few random monsters in his deck might allow him to protect them with super polymerization. Moreover, the card has niche uses. Its extremely broad fusion requirement made it viable in Duel Links, where there are Trishula-focused strategies involving fusing a bunch of high-level monsters and ending the game in one swing via fusion release. Strategically, it mirrors Kaiba Sito's play with Rage with Eyes of Blue. Sadly, this card must be fusion summoned using one's own field or hand. Otherwise, Hikaru would have loved to pull off a cheeky scrap fusion combo using 3 of the opponent's graveyard monsters. That would have been hilarious. Afterward, Hikaru didn't draw any other new cards. He did pull a copy of Mask Change, but as just a spell card, it didn't mean much to him. Still, that wasn't a problem. Now that first contact had been made with the S Dimension, there would surely be future chances to obtain more cards from them, including masked hero cards. It was certainly better than before, when they were impossible to find and presumed non-existent. Following that, transactions between Kaiba Corp and the Security Bureau continued. Hikaru and the other students gradually returned to their world with Kaiba Corp's delegation. At that point, Hikaru finally took stock of what he had gained from this long interdimensional journey. First and foremost was Dragonecro Nethersoul Dragon. As a dual dragon, this card could support Hikaru's spirit powers, relieving Crystal from bearing the burden alone. Next, what he'd yearned for all along. Fusion. A dragon with fusion in its name. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. A fusion summoned dragon. In the original series, this was the ace monster of Yuri, the Fusion Dimension's Yuya counterpart. When Hikaru first arrived in this dimension and dueled Yugo, he had checked his deck for any signs of a fusion dragon, but found none. Still, Hikaru wasn't native to this world. He knew exactly how special Yugo and the others were. To duel all 4 of their counterparts and still not draw a fusion dragon? Unthinkable. Super polymerization would give him the answer. Over the next 15 days, aside from assisting UCI, Hikaru regularly dueled Yugo. He respected the older brother figure who had spoken up for him, and Yugo was always happy to duel. So at last, after 15 days, Hikaru finally obtained a faint trace of a fusion dragon. With the Philosopher's Stone and super polymerization, he would see it through. As for his other major gains, like Trishula or Gen X Spare, they were valuable but symbolic rather than practically crucial. However, during his time spent working with UCI tuning and modifying the D-Wheel, Hikaru began to comprehend several alchemical problems he hadn't understood before. He even figured out how to reconfigure the dimensional gate to consume less energy. That, too, was a tremendous boon for Hikaru. With his alchemy advancing, his control over super polymerization also deepened. One day, he would master it completely. Back in his home world, Hikaru spent a few brief, peaceful days. Why brief, despite a long vacation ahead? Because Hikaru had become a celebrity. As the duelist with Dark Magician, the first to fight in the S Dimension, and one recognized by both worlds as the absolute fusion wielder, Hikaru's fame exploded, especially after he publicly spoke out against the S Dimension's unfairness. He wasn't the only one gaining attention, but Kaiba Corp wasn't about to let the spotlight go to waste. So Hikaru, in his break, had to rush to Funglo Corporation and, with Professor Growler's help, sign a new, even better contract. He shot several quick promos for instant fusion products, leaving him with little downtime and unable to make the promised new parts for Tiara. Tiara, however, wasn't worried. It was only a few weeks, and she was genuinely interested in the promo work and pushing instant fusion products. After the hustle, Hikaru returned to Duel Academy and resumed his work, finally completing Tierra's new component, Infernoid Antra. This time, there were no friendly donations from the Fusion Army. Hikaru had to use a large portion of his Kaiba Corp prize money, plus his instant noodle endorsement revenue from Funglo Corp, to afford enough metal materials. And after finishing so much, he suddenly realized the new semester was about to begin. With a new school year approaching, Hikaru had many things to focus on. The arrival of the Tyler sisters, the early arrival of new students, and the Fusion Club recruits for the new term. Chapter 200, Amagi Hikaru's Appeal. A new semester, a new academic life, but before that comes the arrival of the freshmen. Normally, recruitment for new clubs happens after the semester starts. Just like last year, when Hikaru had just arrived in this world, he found a chance to write his application, then participated in the Fusion Club's duels, and finally joined the club. But after everything that happened last year, the current president of the Polymerization Club, formerly Fusion Club, who was a second-year Obelisk Blue student last year, vowed never again to be overshadowed by Hikaru. So before the school year even began, he quickly rallied the Polymerization Club members to launch a preemptive offensive. That is, to quickly recruit new members before the freshman orientation. Last year's events still haunted him. The Polymerization Club was a massive organization, overflowing with active members, numerous third-year seniors, and excellent upperclassmen like Ken Kanbayashi. Each of the three dorms had its representative ace. Yet even with such a lineup, they were utterly crushed by Hikaru. Now, those seniors had graduated, joined the Fusion Army, and begun working for Dimensional Affairs. As the now second-year representative and new club president, he was under immense pressure. While the Fusion Club also lost some third-year members, the sheer difference in numbers was overwhelming. Last year's third-year students were the core of the Polymerization Club, having been under Professor Growler the longest. On the other hand, the Fusion Club only had a few third-year students. The only consolation, Zane Truesdale had graduated. Otherwise, he couldn't even imagine defeating the Fusion Club. Last year, the Polymerization Club still had advantages in numbers, facilities, cards, and access to dimensional gates. Now, their numbers had plummeted, while Hikaru's side included several duelists who had won the Friendship Cup in the S-Dimension. Hikaru, Jaden, and Chaz had all delivered eye-catching performances. Hikaru once again had shouted "Fusion is the noblest summoning method" before the entire world, while Jaden, in front of both worlds, coolly said, "That was a fun duel," after winning a perfectly timed flex. Ironically, it was Chaz, with his constant grumbling, who seemed like the most normal one. Keep in mind, these new Duel Academy freshmen weren't clueless bookworms, they were duelists, all of whom had watched the Friendship Cup. So in terms of fame and strength, he couldn't confidently compete with the Fusion Club led by Amaki Hikaru. And now that Hikaru and Chaz had reportedly secured funding to expand the Fusion Club, they might even catch up in terms of facilities. If they didn't act fast now, what then? Still, he wasn't charging in blind. During the summer, while Hikaru and others were off dueling in another dimension, he spent time researching and studying both clubs' situations. He prepared a three-phase recruitment strategy. First, promote fusion supremacy without mentioning Hikaru. Then, tell all prospective students they could receive a special deck upon joining the Polymerization Club. Though Hikaru's side had support from Professor Growler, who provided ancient gear decks for club use, they had one advantage. They previously received Gladiator Beast decks from Professor Akaba. Now, all Fusion Club members had stopped using ancient gear and switched to Gladiator Beasts. Partly because Hikaru's side couldn't provide those decks, and partly because machine types struggled against Hikaru. Beyond that, they offered other small gifts. Stuffed lions, wolves, and tigers supposedly based on monsters from various card archetypes. These might even appear in future Polymerization Club giveaways. He and his clubmates set up a large welcome booth at the academy entrance. Rather than actively recruiting, they waited for curious freshmen, then eagerly explained their perks and let them choose. After happily yet discreetly luring in a new member, he saw a group approaching. Amaki Hikaru, Chaz Princeton, Atticus Rhodes, and Bastion. What was his last name again? Several regular Fusion Club members tagged along as well. He was startled. He hurriedly coughed and waved. If it isn't President Amaki. Long time no see. I'm the new president of the Polymerization Club, Mizuwa Fukajui. Hikaru raised an eyebrow. Last year's obelisk blue second year. Honestly, a bit of a shame. He got along quite well with last year's RA yellow second year from the Polymerization Club. If that guy had become president, Hikaru might have had a chance to absorb the entire club. But of course, that was wishful thinking. No way the bald one would choose anyone but a blue as president. Hikaru glanced around. A freshman spotted him and gasped. Absolute fusionist. Amaki Hikaru? Whoa, it's really Senpai Hikaru. A crowd of freshmen instantly forgot everything the Polymerization Club had told them and swarmed Hikaru, even shoving Bastion aside. Hey! Bastion wiped sweat from his brow, nearly falling over. Sure, he lacked presence, even so, this was too much. Meanwhile, Hikaru and Chaz tried to squeeze out of the crowd. Fukajui watched enviously. Regardless, he understood. Hikaru's popularity was earned. After all, not only did he rise to fame in the Friendship Cup, but the title Absolute Fusionist had also spread all over the net. Add in the fact that he held the legendary Dark Magician, of course, students would go wild. The welcoming frenzy lasted several minutes until the experienced Atticus finally calmed the crowd and casually coached Hikaru on how to handle such situations in the future. Senpai Hikaru, if we join the Fusion Club, can we see your Dark Magician card? Senpai Hikaru, if we join, can we use fusion like you? Senpai Hikaru, I want to be a fusionist too. The freshmen hadn't even asked about the Fusion Club's benefits yet. They were already rushing to apply. Compared to the Polymerization Club, where Mizuwa Fukajui had to tirelessly talk day and night just to get one recruit. One of the freshmen Fukajui had barely convinced looked at the application form, then back at Hikaru, hesitation written all over his face. Wouldn't it be better to join Hikaru's Fusion Club? Damn it, Amaki Hikaru. Hikaru gave a sheepish laugh. What could he say? He had only come to check things out. The Polymerization Club was doing its usual recruitment, he wasn't trying to poach anyone. Yet this happened anyway. Such is the pull that comes with fame and performance. Any freshman even slightly interested in fusion would surely have heard of the absolute fusionist Amaki Hikaru. Seeing how Hikaru could sway new recruits just by showing up, Fukajui cursed inwardly. Damn that Amaki Hikaru. Every time he shows up, nothing good happens to the Polymerization Club. But he still had phase 2 of his plan. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.